This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and Smackdown time it is. And here's the interesting thing. Right here we have the Moto X Pure, which is a much more affordable version of a fairly flagship-y phone. $399 starting price, $475 as we have it configured here with 32 gigs of storage and a nice wood back. You can also get it in leather if you like. And here we have the LG G4, which came in as a flagship phone, but from the get-go, actually the full retail price was a bit lower than, say, something from Samsung or Apple. And now that it's been out since, well, about May or so of this year, it's gotten even more affordable. We're often, depending on your carrier, you can find it around $500, maybe less, maybe a little bit more. So they're not priced so differently. They both have big displays, run Android 5.1, have, in fact, similarly designed casings here, both kind of curvy on the back and all that sort of thing. Both have impressive cameras in different kind of ways, and we'll get into that. So how do you choose between these two? We're going to help you with that now. So here we have two really nice phones with pretty high-end specs that are fighting for your less than top dollar. Much more affordable than the Samsung Galaxy phones, the iPhone, all that sort of thing. We have the LG G4, which has been out for several months now. One of the first to use the Snapdragon 808 CPU, clocked at 1.8 gigahertz. And we have the brand new Moto X Pure Edition, also known as the Moto X Style outside of the United States. Also running the Snapdragon 808, clocked at 1.8 gigahertz. Both of them have Adreno 418 graphics and 3 gigs of RAM. They're both available at 16, 32, or 64 gigs of storage. Though with the LG G4, if you're buying from a carrier, it depends on whether your carrier is stocking all the storage capacities or not. The LG G4 is also readily available unlocked, and that's for use on GSM networks, not CDMA. CDMA means Sprint and Verizon in the United States. The Moto X Pure stands out as one of the not many phones on the market that actually supports both CDMA and GSM and Sprint and Verizon flavors of CDMA. Often you'll see one that might work on Verizon as well as GSM, but not on Sprint as well. So this one's unlocked for all major carriers. If you switch carriers, and also minor carriers, Virgin Mobile, Metro PCS, all that, you can take your phone with you, which is pretty darn nice. With the LG G4, as long as you stick to GSM, you can probably do that, but you can't switch to Sprint or Verizon or Virgin Mobile because they use CDMA network technology. Also, there's different bands supported in different versions of the LG G4, so you have to pay attention to all that to make sure you get LTE. Now, for those of you who are just going to buy it from your carrier and you're probably going to stick with your carrier, that matters less. Looking at these phones, one thing that you might notice right now, they're both on max brightness, is though they're IPS displays, neither has super stellar viewing angles. They are lovely IPS displays. Otherwise, the Moto, as you can see, is a little bit brighter. These are both on maximum brightness. Auto brightness is disabled. So the LG just never really goes with a bright display. Don't know what it is. They're probably trying to save some power. The LG G4 is brighter than the G3, but it's still not as bright as our Moto X Pure. And the Moto X Pure is not quite as bright as the Samsung Galaxy S6 and Note 5 family, so there you have a hierarchy of display brightness. And as we bring them up, notice how much brighter it's going to get other than glare. So that looks a lot nicer right there. And you can see the warm tones are pretty well highlighted, particularly this right over here, and some of the warm tones in the very pretty Mario Stormy Sky right here. And the greens have a kind of warmth to them. Now let's bring up our LG G4, which has this cinema display, as they call it. It's supposed to have a pretty good color calibration. It too gets brighter as I bring it up, but not as bright. And the warm tones aren't quite as pronounced. So it depends on what you like. Warm tones I actually like because they make, well, humans look good. If you watch movies a lot, your humans won't look so pale and gruesome. And it's a little easier on the eyes when reading, but it is a matter of personal preference. And here's what they look like, both facing an optimal angle, so you can see the slight difference in brightness there. LG G4 and the Moto X Pure Edition both have 2560 by 1440 QHD displays, 5.5 inches on the LG, 5.7 inches on the Moto X Pure. That's close enough that I'm going to say you're just really not going to notice the difference in screen size all that much. It's not earth-shattering. You're not going to say, whoa, it's just so huge, that Moto X Pure display versus the LG G4. Nope, not going to happen. Now, in terms of design, these both go for the same overall aesthetic and ergonomic comfort, with a tapering on the sides, and they get thicker in the middle. Now, that not only gives the manufacturer a way to actually fit more stuff inside, with it looking kind of thin because, well, the edges are skinny on them, and from the edge view you can see they are thin. Both of them feel very good in hand thanks to that curve. It just fits right in there. It feels nice. Now, I have pretty big hands, so that says something. I'll give a little credit to LG here for designing a display that has nearly no side bezel, which is all the rage right now, but can lead to lots of accidental screen presses when you're grabbing it, which I do have big enough hands that happens. They put enough of a ridge over here that I just about never accidentally do something by touching the sides. With the Moto, I do sometimes. It too has super skinny bezels. By the way, this is available with your choice of a black or a white face. Moto Maker lets you customize all that stuff. But somehow I do manage to accidentally just pick it up and sort of change my home screen almost, that sort of thing. While talking about Moto Maker and customization, for those of you who like to make the phone your own, and a lot of people put aesthetics pretty high on their list of smartphone features now that they're all so darn well spec'd and fast, you can get a black face, you can get a white face. You can choose your accent trim, silver, champagne, as long as you go for the 32 or 64 gig, or a black face and a dark trim look. And you can have, there's a variety of colorful plastic backs that you can choose from, or you can get 4 different wood finishes, and then there's different leather colors as well. So nice phone, unibody design. The back does not come off. With the LG G4, obviously we have the leather back. This one particular color of leather is exclusive to T-Mobile in the United States, but you can get this with either a kind of homely plastic back, or you can get it with this leather back. Now, most carriers don't charge extra for the leather back option, except for AT&T, who always seems to like to pork us on phones. They also charge more than others do for phones here in the United States. Anyway, the phone itself sells for around $550 on Verizon, full retail $450 right now on T-Mobile. Such a deal. And of course AT&T, because they charge more, they're charging around $630, and then they're adding another $50 on for the leather back. Shame on them. Shame on them. Anyway, the back is removable. How nice, how refreshing, how unusual. So you can pull this off. It's got a little grabby point right here. That means if you get a black back, leather back, and you decide you'd rather have the red leather back or whatever, you can switch it. Or if you get the plastic one, you can hunt down a leather back. No wood option. No colorful, tasteful colors like Moto Maker offers for the Moto Xperia. So we just work our way around the edges here. 3,000 milliamp battery, you can remove it, you can swap in a spare. For those of you who find that an indispensable feature, it's an increasingly rare one, and you do get it here. Micro SD card slot here, and we have a micro SIM card underneath it. Now for our Moto Xperia edition, happily they did for this time around, 3rd generation, add a micro SD card slot right here. You need a pokey tool, a particularly skinny one, and this is both the SIM carrier and the micro SD card holder. Compatible with cards up to 128 gigs in capacity. Our LG says is compatible with cards up to 2 terabytes. We don't have a 2 terabyte micro SD card, so we haven't actually tested that, but likely LG is being honest about that. Now for our Moto X, there's also a 3,000 milliamp battery in here, sealed inside, so you can't swap in a spare. But it comes back with turbocharging. You get the turbocharger in the box. So that's the deal where you can recharge about 40% battery charge in half an hour or so. So that really does help, assuming you have some access to an AC outlet there. Oddly, even though it's clearly possible since Moto's doing it, LG doesn't support quick charge. It's not that slow to charge though. I can charge it from 15% to 100% in about an hour and 15 minutes. So that's not so bad either. No wireless charging on either of these. Particularly organic materials get in the way of that leather and wood, even if it's just a thin veneer finish on it. And while we're looking at the backs right here, here is our LG G4 speaker firing out the back. Never an ideal thing, a mono speaker. Moto goes with the front-facing stereo speakers. A lot louder and more ideal because, well, it's actually facing you instead of the desk or the palm of your hand. Louder, better sounding phone for those of you who actually rely on the speakers when watching YouTube and whatever else it is you're watching. The Moto Xperia is a particularly heavy phone. I don't know if it's those big metal sides or what the deal is there, but it weighs 6.31 ounces versus the LG G4 being 5.47 ounces, excuse me. So 5.47 versus 6.31. You will feel the difference. That's a significant percentage there between these two. So if you hate a heavy phone, it's not the Moto Xperia edition for you. And there's operating system and UI layers on top of the operating system. Both of these are running Android 5.1 Lollipop. Now, you've got a pure Android experience here. Very Very simple, very clean. Nothing's going to bog you down. If you want to get the settings, that's how you drag to it. If you want to see all settings, it's just all stock Google stuff. Of course, you can put the launcher of your choice on here and jazz it up if you want. And we have the Google Now launcher, which tells you whatever it is you're interested in on Google. Now, LG puts their, what they call it, well, basically their LG UI on top of it. And you get the square icons here. You get more layers on top of it. It's not all bad. Now, their version over here is LG Health and some of their features and software over here. And if you bring it down, we've got quick access to our settings also. Some of these things are actually more convenient, like, you know, controlling auto brightness right from the home shade. Right here, I can't actually control auto brightness on the Moto. I have to go into display settings. I can set the relative brightness, but I can't turn it on. So some of these things are actually pretty decent creature comforts. The settings are obviously going to be looking quite different there, and not so different from Samsung's either. LG did manage to lighten it up so it's not really bogging down the phone. This feels like a pretty responsive and fast phone. Here we have their funny little time and weather widget that always says the same silly thing, like go take an umbrella, whatever, if there's any chance of rain. Not the world's most useful thing, but you can get it up there. Now, if you don't like the LG UI, of course, you can run a third-party launcher and you can get away from the square icons and whatever else they're doing. They do have their split window multitasking. It doesn't support as many apps as does Samsung, but you can do it. So after some tapping and dragging right here, I've got Chrome web browser running up top, and I've got the photo gallery down at the bottom. You can resize these, relatively speaking. So there you have that. So how about cameras? And we're right now using our LG G4 as the model for our Moto X Pure Edition. Moto X Pure goes for a very, shall we say, pure, simple, pretty much straight Google plain interface for shooting. If you want to take a video, you just tap the video button. If you want to swap your cameras, you swap here. If you want the circle of joy right there for settings, those of you who watch my videos know I'm just not so fond of those setting control things. It's pretty basic stuff. You tap to focus. In good light, it focuses well. In poor light, it's kind of hit or miss, which is a little bit odd. But it's a 21 megapixel rear camera with an LED flash on the back, f2.0 lens, and for Moto, this is the best camera yet. And honestly, outdoors, it takes pretty good pictures. In low light, even though it has a night mode, not real impressed. Do see some noise, a lot of loss of detail. And for bright outdoor shots, one problem it does have is it's not quite as good at managing this contrast. So if there's dappled sunlight somewhere, it's going to throw it off. You're going to get a little bit more overexposure. And we're going to put in some sample photos so you can actually see that for yourself. Front-facing camera is 5 megapixels. It has an LED flash so you can blind yourself when you're doing selfies. Oh noes. 1080p video recording for the front. It's not a bad camera at all, but it's a wide angle lens, so it kind of distorts things. The rear camera can shoot 4K video. Of course, can do 1080p video as well. No optical image stabilization, so hold it steady when you're taking pictures and when you're shooting video. Any movement will show up. Even software stabilization can't cure all that. Now, the LG G4 has an 8 megapixel front-facing camera. As you imagine, it actually is pretty darn good. And they made a big deal out of this. This is the photographer's camera phone. And indeed, it is very capable. And right now we're in auto mode, and so it's more simplified. We've got dual shot, we've got panorama, a couple of other things to choose from right there, slow motion video, so nice features. And for those of you who are real shutterbugs, you can go to manual mode and look at that. You've got all sorts of things, white balance control, manual focus, EVs, ISO, all sorts of things like that. Sounds pretty impressive. Now, if you're the kind of person who doesn't even know what any of that stuff is, you just want to take a picture, you can put it on simpler auto mode and ignore all that. But for those of you who are a little more sophisticated about taking pictures, you could be pretty excited. 4K video for the rear camera, 1080p video for the front. This is an f1.9 lens on the rear, and honestly, this does take better photos. Sorry, folks, I know some of you are going to defend that Moto camera, but LG wasn't lying when they said this is a really good camera. I've taken some pictures with this where you wouldn't know if I had used maybe a pretty decent quality point and shoot, and we'll, again, slide in some photos next so you can see the difference. Also, this is optical image stabilization, so your video is a little smoother, and in general, the video is a bit brighter and less blocky looking than it is on the Moto. Now the Moto X Pure might get some firmware updates or software updates that improve the camera on it. In fact, using some third-party camera apps can actually help things a little bit right now too. And it's not a terrible camera, the Moto X. It's just not as good as the LG G4. The LG G4 and the latest Samsung Galaxy cameras really are the top cameras on the market right now, at least till the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus come out, and then we'll have to see what they have to offer, if they can compete. Lastly, I think most everybody knows this by now. LG likes to, with their higher end phones, put the controls on the back. Volume up, volume down, power in the middle. It doesn't seem to be one of those you love it or you hate it. Most people just don't seem to really care all that much. But the Motorola has more traditional and very tactile, a lot of texture on, particularly on the power button. But you've got your typical controls over here. And for these two guys that have 3,000 milliamp batteries, you'd expect battery life to be pretty much identical, maybe, right? I mean, they're running the same processor, they're roughly the same screen size, they are running the same resolution. Well, the LG G4 actually has better battery life. Now, maybe again with the Moto X Pure Edition, we'll see some software improvements that can improve battery life, but I'm noticing about 45 minutes more screen on time. That's actually use time with the LG G4 to an hour at times. So that translates into, with light to moderate use, the difference between I really have to charge my Moto X Pure Edition at night before I go to bed, or in the morning, to the LG G4, it'll make it till noon the next day with light to moderate use. So there you have it, the new Moto X Pure versus the incumbent, the LG G4. Both of these are really fine phones. When the LG G4 came out, man, you could not take this phone away from me. Really good camera. Big screen, but comfortable in hand. I'm fond of the leather back, you know, some of you might not be, but I am. Removable battery stands in its favor too. With the Moto X Pure Edition, well, you get an even bigger display, a little bit brighter, a little bit warmer, and it feels more colorful to me. Whether it's more or less accurate, that's a different thing. It also is available with your choice of wood or leather or just playful colored plastic backs if you want to save a little bit of money right there. Pretty good camera, a few caveats with that really stellar voice quality. And the one real special thing about this is unlocked for all 4 major US carriers. You don't have to buy a different model if you go from Verizon to AT&T or Sprint to T-Mobile. And for your folks overseas too, it's got you covered with all the bands that you need. So this is a very flexible phone. Also, it runs a very clean version of Android. And for those of you who are ROM hackers and you like to try out different builds and stuff like that, Motos are always very well supported, these Moto Pure kind of devices. And the LG G4, not so much love, generally speaking, a locked bootloader. So hopefully that has helped you to decide between these two fine phones. Like I said, either way, you're getting a really nice phone and you're saving a little money over the offerings from, say, well, Samsung. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to watch our video reviews of each of these phones, read our written reviews, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.